From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 2194, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, November 20th, 2019. Our top story this week looks at Australia's bushfires. As disaster overwhelms the nation on a deadly scale, Hams step in for support.
As bushfires consume more than 4,000 square miles in New South Wales alone, officials in Australia were bracing for the latest rash of blazes that they said could lead to the most dangerous bushfire week in the nation's history. New South Wales called a state of emergency and additional fires flared in West Australia and Queensland. Members of the Wireless Institute Civil Emergency Network, or WICEN, were called to harness their radio skills in the face of overwhelming catastrophe. Hams were deployed to provide logistical support for the Rural Fire Service, along with community evacuation and welfare support. Hams sent to the Rural Fire Service Command Centre in northern VK2 had begun rotations operating the RFS's own radio system. Members of WICEN's parent body, the Volunteer Rescue Association, were staffing the bushfire information line in Sydney, likely alongside WICEN members. Hams were also functioning as scribes for firefighting incident management teams. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Graham Kemp, VK4BB.
Meanwhile, amateurs in India mobilized to help emergency operations as a cyclone overtook the coast.
As parts of Bangladesh and the eastern Indian state of Odisha and West Bengal were slammed by Cyclone Bulbul on November 10th, a team of amateurs from the West Bengal Radio Club set up emergency operations in the largest and most populated district of West Bengal. From there, they connected with police, the state disaster management team, and the National Disaster Response Force. Outside, people throughout the region were evacuated under the threat of the deadly storm's wind of as much as 120 kilometres per hour or 75 miles per hour. Ambarish Nag Biswas VU2 JFA, the club's founder, reported on their Facebook page that the control room operators established connections with state officials and mobile stations were reporting their observations in and keeping an eye on the relief camps. Authorities credited lower death tolls to the presence of additional coastal shelters and more efficient evacuations. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
The founder of the Ham-Sci research team has won a prestigious National Science Foundation grant.
Congratulations to Ham-Sci founder Nathaniel Frisell, W2NAF, who has been given a $1.3 million National Science Foundation grant to work with amateur radio stations studying the effects of weather in the ionosphere. He is the founder of Ham-Sci, also known as the Ham Radio Science Citizens Investigation Initiative, which is an international citizen science space physics research collective. His research project, which will take 3 years, is known as DASI, for Distributed Arrays of Small Instruments. Nathaniel will work with a number of universities and amateur radio operators staffing a network of personal space weather stations. He told the ARRL that he believed his receipt of the grant shows that the National Science Foundation takes amateur radio's contribution to science seriously. Meanwhile, Nathaniel recently moved on to the University of Scranton as a physics and electrical engineering professor after being on the faculty of the New Jersey Institute of Technology. He is already planning to establish a ham radio club on the Scranton campus and hopes the club's work will become part of the effort covered by the grant. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Heather Emby, KB3TZD.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Graham Kemp, VK4BB, Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, Heather Emby, KB3TZD, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Welbanks, AE5DW 73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.